conversations. There's a number of cultural organisations who are working with Sunderland University, looking at practice and developing practice for artists who work in participatory settings. And by that, we're kind of looking at absolutely embracing all that that means, from an artist like Spencer Tunick, who maybe works directly with artists, with the public as part of their artwork, to enabling and facilitating young people to write their own work, so everything in between. So we're not excluding that. So the conversation today hopefully will be rich and informative, and certainly inform whatever Sunderland University want to take forward, along with the cultural partners, and thinking about professional development for artists in the future. We have three fantastic people with us, kind of starting us off and stimulating our thinking. And Tony from The Forge is going to facilitate and chair the session for us today. Penny Ray is a fantastic international practitioner who's going to share her thinking and her work with us, as is Stevie, Ronnie, who's a writer and all sorts of different entrepreneurial things around digitised work, and they're going to get us all started thinking through the conversation. So I think the format for it is we'll have the presentations, we'll have a little break after Stevie's done his presentation, just to grab another drink, because I think it's going to get very warm in here. It is, yes, I don't think it's going to get cooler with the lights on. And then Penny will do her presentation, and there'll be elements of interaction with that, and then the floor is open for you to kind of be part of that conversation. So without more ado, Tony, Penny, Steve, do you want to? Oh yes, we'll all have had this on your invites, but it is being filmed today, and the idea for that is that it's an open learning resource, so it is something that we can all access and use in the future as a resource to really, I think Toby kind of mentioned something when he did something similar with Helix, in that he was part of the conversation, and actually it wasn't until he looked back at the film that he realised he'd missed so much of that rich conversation that took place. So there was a phenomenal amount of learning that happened afterwards, and that learning resource will be part of a package of, I think there are 6 conversations that will be happening. 9 conversations that are going to be happening with the range of cultural partners, the Baltic, Helix, and Northern Stage, and so on. Okay, Tony.
Thank you very much. We're just going to sit up. I think it's really hot. Are you really hot already?
Yeah.
I think we might have to try and do something. Can we have the door open? Is that a problem for anyone?
Is that going to create problems?
Could someone do that for us?
All right.
Brilliant. Okay. Listen, thank you very much for coming here to Live Theatre today for this critical conversation. I love alliteration, don't you? We always have critical conversations. So today, I've been asked to come along and chair, which is very nice of them to ask me to do that. Basically, I guess my qualification for doing that is that I run an organisation that does participatory arts. One of the questions we might well look at today is, what does that actually mean? And it can be interpreted in so many different ways. My organisation has been working for, this is our 11th year of operation, and I still don't really know what the answer is, so hopefully we'll be able to get a little clearer today. We work with young people in the main, and their families, and we work quite closely with Arts Council. We're an Arts Council MPO organisation, which means we're a national portfolio organisation, which for people who don't know is the organisations that are funded by the Arts Council directly. So I guess we come with a certain amount of experience within this field. We've got 2 fantastic contributors, and you'll find out more about their work during the course of the session. Our thoughts were that we would get our people, Stevie's going to do an introduction and tell you a little bit about his work, but the way things are going, we'll probably need a drink by then. We'll have a little drink, and then Penny will tell you about her work, and then hopefully we'll be able to open it up for a wider debate. So I didn't realise there were 9 of these conversations. We're the 3rd, so let's make it the best. Not very competitive, but let's make it the best. It's quite an amazing day today, isn't it? Because we know they've discovered a particle. After 45 years of research with 6,000 scientists, they've discovered a particle. Actually, they haven't discovered a particle. What they have is they're almost certain, because they can't actually say they have. So all we've got to do is work out what participatory arts means, and how we do it, and how artists approach this work, what participants would get from being involved in a process like this. So our hope is that we'll be looking at, I guess, both sides of the spectrum. If you're a participant, what's the journey you should, or what's an ideal journey? What would you hope to get from being involved in a process like this? As an artist, why do you do it? Okay, maybe it helps pay the mortgage. Wouldn't argue with that. That's a good thing. But there must be other reasons as well. So really, we do want to talk. We want, I know we're up here and you're down there, which isn't really ideal, but we have cameras everywhere. But please, what we'd like to do is to try and make this into a bit of a discussion. So if I can ask Stevie. Now Stevie, I have your bio here.
You can read it.
Yeah, I can. I'm going to. Now, I've just met Stevie today. I've heard about his work. And I know a lot more about it now. It says that he's a writer and post-digital artist following a multidisciplinary community-engaged practice which lies at the intersection of literature, digital technology and audiovisual art. Then, to be honest, I was struggling with that, but then I read what he's done. And he has done a huge amount of work, both as a poet, as a digital artist, as a performer, as an academic, worked in schools, huge amount. I would recommend go and look at the website. So he's got an incredibly broad set of skills, which I think is also interesting in terms of this whole participatory debate and how you use that wide range of skills. So I'm going to ask Stevie to do your little presentation and then we'll take it from there. Is that okay, Stevie?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Sorry, can I say one more thing?
Yeah, that's fine.
We are we are entering the Twitter age. Critical conversations. Hashtag critical conversations. There we go. 3 so far. We won't be trending by the end of this conversation, so we'd be very grateful if you could help us get up there.
Tony's pretending he knows what he's talking about. He just learned what trending is 10 minutes ago. Yeah. You can tell because he said about entering the Twitter age.
It was a giveaway, isn't it?
10 years ago? Not quite that.
Oh well. I'm doing my best.
So yeah, it's always difficult trying to describe what you do in a paragraph as a bio. Without really trying to avoid the jargon and things. Most of what I do, I try and it might be complicated when I talk about it, but I try and make it as simple as possible. So most of my practice is rooted in poetry, which is about pressing things down for their essential qualities and making them as simple as they can be. But when I talk about them, they sound incredibly complicated, but I think simple things always are incredibly complicated behind them. And the other thing I wanted to say before I start is that I have a vision of shoving a load of artists into a collider, zooming them around until they explode, and then we can discover what they're made of. How they work. Maybe it's not a good idea. Yeah, so what I'm going to talk about is first of all, I'm going to talk about a little bit about in general what I do, because it was so complicated, just unpack that a little bit for you. And then I'm going to look at examples of my practice through the lens of some questions which are central to the critical conversations debate. that Sharon sent me beforehand. So a couple of questions left out of me, and I thought I would look at those in some detail really, and try to look at work that I've done, projects that I've been involved in, that have had some sort of participatory element to them, in terms of the type of things that these conversations are trying to resolve. So yeah, this is the longer version of what I do. So really the work that I do cuts across all of these different types of things. There's a list up there that scares me sometimes when I think about it. But basically, it's probably easier to explain how I ended up doing what I do. I studied computer science when I left school. I was a computer scientist, which involved writing programs for computers that made car engines, or also that's all right. Yeah, then I worked for years in the gambling industry, making virtual roulette machines. Always when I worked with software and people and programs and stuff, I was always working at the interface between humans and machines. So I've always been interested in that, what happens between a human and a machine and so on. When I was a teenager, whenever I felt bad about something, I used to write it down in a diary, as you do, or as I did anyway. I didn't really think much of it. I just wrote in this diary every time I didn't understand something. I felt if I wrote it down, it made me feel better. I understood it better. And then sort of about 10 years ago, I decided to join. Just over 10 years ago, I decided to join a creative writing group in my local comprehensive school, because I thought that would be a fun thing to do after work. And so I went along and started. I took some of this writing that I'd been making, and I met a wonderful tutor there, who's called Joan Johnson, really supportive, amazing woman, probably the best person a beginning writer could meet. And she looked at my work and she said, "Oh, what you're writing is poetry." And I thought, "Oh, well, maybe it is," because it's sort of in lines. It was all terrible in quotes as well. And just from there, I started writing more, and I took it seriously, and I ended up going back to university and did a postgrad degree in creative writing. And eventually sort of started to publish work and to get work as a writer in various different settings. And when that happened, I decided that when I left my normal job, I decided I never wanted to see a computer again. I didn't want anything to do with them, because I hate things, I hate programming them, I hate dealing with them. And then as soon as I gave them up for about 6 months, I realised that it was sort of part of my life, because I'd spent my whole life working with them on a daily basis and doing things, and that actually if I started to do stuff that involved that and what I was doing creatively, then interesting things started to happen. So I started doing that and looking at what can happen to literature when you combine it with technology, and then it started to become something else that maybe wasn't writing, and other people started to call it art, so I said, "Oh, that's what I do," and then I branched out and started doing lots of other things, which are all listed here in some way, and that's, yeah, so I do lots of things, technology, literature, art, in various different settings. So I present my work in books,